What's up and welcome to Bigger's World Travel Preparation course. This is a 100% free course and I really hope you enjoy this. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I really like your support and I would appreciate it. So let's get right into it. Section 1, planning. Planning is at a very important stage because it's the fundamental of any trip. So the first thing you may need to look into is air travel. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are generally known as the cheapest day to book your flight, but that's not always true. So make sure that you don't just book on a Tuesday or Wednesday because you think it's the cheapest day. Make sure you look through all the days of the week. I do actually book Tuesdays mostly. However, there are times where I see one on Sunday or one on Thursday. That is a lot cheaper. So just keep that in mind. The number one app I use and my go-to app is Skyscanner. Skyscanner is an amazing app. If you haven't heard of it, I hope you will take the chance to go ahead and look this up because this could be the number one best tip that I give you in this entire course if you haven't heard of Skyscanner. Skyscanner is amazing. So basically what Skyscanner does, you can put the dates in your in the computer. Say you want to go for July 1st to July 20th. And then once you put in those dates, anytime any price changes, it'll automatically email you. And say you want to do, you have a little fluctuation and you want to do July 2nd to July 22nd, then the Skyscanner will automatically do that as well. I put in upwards of 10 to 20 flights a month that I'm watching at any time, and as soon as the flight goes below a certain price is when I'm ready to book. So check out Skyscanner. I think you're really going to like it. Next, we're going to go over 4 airlines that I use a lot that some people might not have heard of, actually. So the first one is Wizz Air. Wizz Air mostly deals with Southeastern Europe. However, they do a lot of, they do some other European flights as well. But what I like about Wizz Air is as long as you have the right bag with the right dimensions, that's the number one, that's the biggest way people get caught. And with Wizz Air, another thing is you have to check in the night before. Don't check in at the desk or it will cost you more. But besides that, Wizz Air goes from a lot of European cities over into the Middle East. So if you're looking to go from maybe Poland to Jerusalem or Germany over to, you know, Turkey, or, you know, maybe even to Saudi Arabia, if you're trying to go over there, there's a lot of Europe to Middle Eastern countries that that you can work with Wizz Airline and super cheap. I think I got a ticket from Poland to Warsaw over to Jerusalem for something like $40 US. It was ridiculously cheap. So keep that in mind. Wizz Air, really cool airline for Europe to Middle Eastern flights. Next, it would be AirAsia. If you've been to Asia, you've probably heard of AirAsia. I just wanted to mention them because of how much I adore them. I really like AirAsia. I think it's got really nice quality, especially for the price. It's AirAsia's equivalent, I guess you would say, to EasyJet and Ryanair as far as pricing is concerned, but it has the quality of an American, you know, United or Delta Airlines, a really nice airplane, and all the people really treat you well. I've flown AirAsia upwards of, you know, 20-30 times. I've always had good flights. I really enjoy AirAsia. So if you're in Asia, that's the airline you should rock with. The next two are 2 relatively unknown airlines, but the reason I like them is because of the 1 to 3 day layover options you can have. So the first one is TAP Portugal. That's T-A-P Portugal. This airline has a their home base is in Portugal, and what you can do is say you're taking a flight from Miami over to Germany. They're gonna stop in their home station like they always do. So that's where your layover will be. So instead of having a 3 or 4 hour layover, what you can do is you can orchestrate a 2 to 3 day layover if you'd like. Actually, I think 1 to 3 days. So you can even do a 24-hour layover, or you can go as far as 72 hours, and it's free of charge. It doesn't cost you any more. And basically, you're going to take the same flight that you would have been taking on the day you were supposed to take it, but just 3 days later, and it gives you this really cool 3-day window for a layover in Portugal. It's to promote tourism in Portugal, and I think it's an amazing idea. I've used this airline, very nice airline. It's definitely a top 10 for me. So if you are flying to Germany, check out TAP Portugal. Sometimes their deals are better than the airlines you'd expect. The next one would be WOW Air. WOW Air, I've flown this one many times. Not as much lately because their Miami flight got discontinued because of budget cuts, but they do still have, I believe, a DC one and a New York City one. WOW Airlines' home office is up in Reykjavik, Iceland. So it's awesome. You fly into, I've taken it from Miami to Germany several times. And so basically we'll stop in Iceland. I'll do a 2-day layover there. And I'll have 48 hours to explore road check, which I really enjoy the city as a whole. I'm going to do a video on that soon. It's a great city. And it doesn't cost you anything extra just to get a 2-day layover, which Iceland is extremely expensive. So it's kind of like, you know, going to Norway or something like that. You really don't need that much time unless you have a lot of money, because it's super, super, super expensive. Yeah, no, not that. If you're trying to explore Norway, you need a lot of time. But what I'm saying is it's very, very expensive. So be careful. But 48 hours, you can really see some cool stuff, and you might even get to knock those northern lights off your bucket checklist. So next we're gonna go into accommodations, but to close out air travel, that's you know, those are the 4 airlines I like to use. Tuesday and Wednesdays are the better dates, so just take all that into consideration, and maybe you can get a really good deal on your next flight. So accommodations: how, where, why, when, what, you know, any other words. So these are the 5 ways I book my accommodations. We're going to go with hostelworld.com. I use that one all the time. Booking.com. I love using this one as well. The difference between Hostelworld and Booking, they both do book hostels, but Booking also does hotels. But the big difference is in Hostelworld, when you book a hostel, you pay a deposit. When you do Booking, you can pay the whole thing. So then you don't need the local currency when you get there to check in. So keep that in mind. Number 3 is Expedia. I always use Expedia. They have great customer service, and I've used them a lot just because of their customer service. 4, couch surfing. I'll explain some couch surfing here in a few minutes. It's for maybe the bold, but if you're trying to get out of your comfort zone, maybe you want to try it. The next one would be Airbnb, and we'll get into that as well. So let's just get right into all of them. Hostelworld.com is mainly for hostels. So if you've never stayed at a hostel, I think you should. I love hostels. I've stayed in over 200 different ones around the world. I really enjoy it. It's a great way to meet people, and it really allows you to become more social if you're not. If you're trying, and that's the reason you're trying to travel, to become a more social person. Hostels is definitely where you need to be at. So Hostelworld and Booking.com, the reason I love both of those is because Booking.com also does hostels, and what you can do is you can check the same hostel on both websites and compare reviews. So then if you compare the reviews, and what you'll basically, you can see different people's thoughts on the hostel. However, Hostelworld, most people that are doing reviews there are backpackers and younger. Booking.com is a lot of times older people, or people that stay in a lot of hotels, and then they just found the hostel through that website. So you can get a different look at both of them. And the cool thing about it is, if you find a hostel that has a 9.0 on Hostelworld and then maybe an 8.8 on Booking.com, because Booking.com's ratings are generally a little bit lower, that's a great hostel though. So I just use it for a dual review process, and it works pretty well. Like I said earlier, that one of the things I like about Booking.com is you can pay for the entire thing up front. It's really, really cool. So next, we'll get into couch surfing. So couch surfing, exactly what it sounds like. You're going to stay on someone's couch. There's a lot of locals that love opening up their home to the travelers because they're travelers and they love the company. It's a little nerve-wracking, I think. You need to be, understand what you're doing, read the reviews, and be observant, I've talked to hundreds of people about couch surfing. 99% of them love it. However, there's a few that have had some weird, creepy times. There are creepy people out there, so be aware. This is something for the bold or someone trying to get out of their comfort zone. But like I said, some people I know have done it hundreds of times, and they love it. So the couch surfing community, the website, the app, all of them do have really good review process. So you can generally kind of get a little understanding of where you might be staying at. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do something different. The next one is Airbnb.com. I love Airbnb. The coolest thing about Airbnb is negotiation. A lot of people don't think about this, but if you're going into a city and the city has a lot of Airbnbs, don't be afraid to message the person that you're going to be staying at and negotiate your price. one of the things a lot of people say is, oh, well, I can't, message them until I book it. So if you're going to do that and you notice that there's tons, book it for one day, and then you'll be able to message them and then work out a deal for the next 4 or 5 days that you're staying there. This is a great way to do it, and I'm telling you, it works a lot more than you think. I'm probably done it 10 times, and I'm like 50-50. So you're not always going to get it, but sometimes you may just get, your place of stay that you're going to be staying for an extra $5 off a night. So don't be afraid to negotiate. It's a really, really cool tactic, and it's worked for me a lot. The last thing I want to mention in accommodations, I want to go back to hostels real quick. Just for everyone that has never stayed at a hostel, please do not think that hostels are like that movie that you saw called Hostel. That's not the way hostels are or whatsoever. I've had some amazing time in hostels. They're very, very nice. And in majority of hostels, you can even get a private room and you don't have to stay on a bunk bed like you may think. So, like I said, if you're new to the idea of staying in a hostel, maybe stay in a private room in a hostel just until you can kind of figure it out a little bit. And then if you enjoy it, maybe you try a bunk bed the next night or in the future. So yeah, those are my 5 ways of accommodations, and I hope that they maybe have opened your eyes to maybe trying a different way to stay. So next, we're going to go into buses and train. So buses and train, for me, for the most part, are mainly in Europe. I've used trains in, Tokyo and a few other places over in Asia. But for the most part, I use buses and trains in Europe. So the 4 ones I want to go over just real fast in Europe is Omio. It's a great app, OMIO. And it's for buses and trains. And you can really get some good deals on there if you check it out. Then I'd go with Flixbus, Flix bus. They're the big green ones you'll see over in Europe. And the reason I like them is because they're huge and green, so majority of the time you can't really not see them. So it's awesome. So they're awesome for that reason, because a lot of times you'll get to the bus station, there'll be 40 buses and you won't know which one to take. So being the big green bus is really, really cool. And then the next ones will be Euroline and RegioJet. Both of those are bus companies that I've used. They've all used them all successfully and not had any issues with any of them. The biggest things with the reason I wanted to mention those 4 are because a lot of times when people are going over to Europe, they want to get the the Eurorail pass or something like that, which can be a great deal. However, not always. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to go for 2 weeks, and the Eurorail is trying to charge you $300 to $500 to go to 3 countries, no, don't do that when you can take 4 buses for $40. And yes, I've taken buses from Slovenia down to Split, Croatia for $8 US. So you can get these buses very, very cheap. I've taken buses all throughout Europe, from all the way down in Kosovo, all the way up to Norway, and all throughout. So there are buses everywhere in Europe. And like I said, if you're only going to be on that Eurorail for, 3 or 4 trips and they're trying to charge you $400, that's crazy. It'll take a little more time with the buses. However, that's sometimes part of the best journey. You can make some awesome friends, and you can have a crazy cool journey. So keep that in mind. Buses versus trains. It's not always a better deal to do the Eurorail when you can do taking the buses. Next one would go and do travel insurance. Travel insurance is huge. I wasn't a big travel insurance for the first year until I went to Indonesia and may or may have not have jumped off a cliff for some cliff jumping because the tour guide told me it was deep enough. Note to self, you should never trust anybody in that area, and just trust your gut and your instincts. Lo and behold, I jumped off a 40-foot, 12, 13 meter cliff and into 2 to 3 feet water, 1 meter of water, and my ankle exploded. And it looked like this. As you can see, that ankle got humongous. But you live and you learn, and that's what I did from this experience. I got very lucky because I was heading to Australia the next day, and I had some great friends, and they helped me out, and they got me some crutches, and give it a little big old shout out to my friends in Brisbane. So what I'm saying is basically you need travel insurance and you should get it. So let's go over a few ways that you can get travel insurance. The first one I got from another traveler named Drew Binsky. He endorses Alliance Travel Insurance, and I've used them as well. They're a good company. They're relatively cheap, actually, for the travel insurance area, and yeah, you should look them up. I'll make sure I put Alliance Travel Insurance below so you can check them out. Good pricing, and I think you'll enjoy them. The next one would be World Nomads. Just go to worldnomads.com, and you can look up the travel insurance there, and you can get some really good prices as well. And then the one hidden secret that I found out from doing research and calling my own credit cards is check out your credit cards. American Express, Citi, Chase, I think Bank of America, and there's a few other ones that a lot of these credit cards actually have traveler's insurance already included. As long as you book the flight with your credit card, yeah, you get free travel insurance, which could save you hundreds of dollars. So check that out. Look into your credit cards, and if you don't have one that has it, maybe you can get. Maybe you should look into it, and you might be able to save a lot of money on your next trip and get a cool credit card out of it. So yeah, check that out. I think that you'll find that these ideas will help you a lot. So next one is it's a pretty basic one, but a lot of people forget this. So bank notifications. You got to contact your bank and let them know you're leaving. A lot of people forget. So go on your app. I use SunTrust, so I have a SunTrust app that I do all my things through that. But just about all banks are going to have the same process. So go on there, put in your where you're going to be going, so your credit cards and debit cards work overseas. Or you're going to get to the airport abroad, and you're not going to have any money, and then you're going to have to waste time calling them. And also, it could be in the middle of the night if you're overseas. So guess what? You're not getting anything then. So you could be in a real pickle. So go ahead and make sure you put in your bank notifications ahead of time. I don't think I really need to go over passport acquisition. If you're watching this video, I think you probably already have your passport, or you know the process. But just in case you don't, USPS, the post office, is where you can get your passport. You can make an appointment with them. You can get your pictures from a CVS or a Walgreens. This goes for the United States travelers. And yeah, so you can get your pictures from there. Then you can go to your appointment, do the whole appointment process, and you'll have your passport in 4 to 6 weeks. I would say always try to get your passport 3 to 5 months outside of your actual traveling, because sometimes it can get a backlog, and it'll take you a while before you can get them. And okay, so this one is interesting because a lot of people don't really think this is important, but I do. You need to let someone know where you're at. So I understand you don't want to be texting a lot of people while you're traveling, and you want to go with the flow. So do what I do and use Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram as your your checker-inner. And when I say checker-inner, what I mean by that is if you check in when you get off the airplane into the new city, then at least people know somewhere of where you're at. And that's all. That's all people really want to know that care about you. You know, your family, your friends, anybody that's kind of watching your journey. So if you use that out, then that can kind of alleviate some of the stress on the people behind you. And you really don't want to be making anybody stressed out while you're traveling. So use that. You try to use one of those. I think it'll help you a lot. Next, cell phones. So first off, we're going to go into this a lot more in depth, Wi-Fi and apps in a later section. But just real quick, if your cell phone is locked, say you have an iPhone like I do, unless your iPhone is completely paid off of, it's going to be locked, and you're not going to be able to get a SIM card overseas. So you're going to have to, basically go off of Wi-Fi, or pay for Verizon, pay the $10 a day, for service in these other countries. So what I do is I just kind of do the Wi-Fi calling, and I have gotten pretty good at figuring out where Wi-Fi connections are. So before I leave at all times when I'm planning, or when I'm initially planning, and I put in my accommodations in the airport, I always find a Starbucks nearby one of those A or B, just so I have Wi-Fi if I need it for an unforeseen circumstances. So remember that, check it out, see if your phone can actually have a SIM card, or if you can't. If you have an Android, I think they can always have SIM cards, which is really, really cool feature of Android phones. But, yeah, so we'll get into apps and Wi-Fi a little more, I believe in section 6. We'll talk about that more. And the final thing I think you need to do when you're initially planning, is, I just mentioned it, airport, to accommodation, A to B. This is something that you have to figure out before you you land in the next and in your city. The reason is because it just alleviates stress. So just go to Google and put in public buses from this to this. Put in, are there taxi stands in the airport? Does Uber, Lyft, Bolt, Taxify, do any of these operate in the city? It takes you 10 minutes and you'll figure out exactly how you can get from the airport to your accommodations. What this also does is it takes stress off of, you know, you having to get money out of the airport if you don't want to, and there's huge backlog lines. It allows for you to know where you're going. So then when you say you get to Bali, Indonesia, and you get to the airport and there's 200 taxi drivers trying to get you to get in their taxi, guess what? If you already know what you're doing, if you know you're going to walk into town, or you know this or any of that, like, boom, you don't have to worry about it, and it's amazing. And trust me, it'll take a lot of pressure off of you. So take the 10 minutes and do the research. So, you know, getting from A to B, cell phones, understanding your cell phone, checking in, bank notification, travel insurance, bus and air travel, and your accommodations. We went over all this in this section 1, and I hope you at least learned at least one tip that'll help you in your next travel journey. So go ahead and stay tuned to section 2, where we're going to go over packing. It's a good one. So I can't wait to see you guys over there.